let me tell you what I think. I think President Trump wants to fix this Middle East problem. And I think like many presidents, whether it's Jimmy Carter and the Camp David Accords or Bill Clinton, was it the Oslo Accords with Clinton? I mean, whoever it is, these guys, and rightfully so, want to go down in history doing big things. Okay, we have to remember the kind of personality it takes to be the president of the United States. Okay, you're talking about a big personality. These guys generally are extremely type A, extremely driven. I don't know if I would put Jimmy Carter in that. He was just kind of a fluke. Really, I'm serious. I don't see the guy as driven in type A, but he was just kind of a fluke. But a lot of these guys are very driven guys, or at least they have people around them that are very driven. I think Nancy Reagan, obviously was a very driven individual with specific goals and objectives for her husband. And historically, it's said that she was the one really pushing him, along with other people around President Reagan when he was governor and then came out of the governorship. Key people around him, whether it was Ed Meese and others, saw his ability, his appeal, his ability to on camera. So I want to rephrase that. Sometimes it's the individual's very driven, but sometimes it's the people around them that are also very driven. And they think, we want to go there and we want to leave our mark. Let's make a mark on history. And I think President Donald Trump wants to make a big mark. Now, the question to me is he going to make a big mark that sets up for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled? That's my interest. But what do you think it says when he brings in Benjamin Netanyahu first, and then next week, the king of Jordan? What's he saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the words he used was stability. He wants to bring stability to the Middle East. After all, it's very unstable. Syria has had a civil war. Turkey have moved in more and more and more into Syria now, Brannon. Mm-hmm. Very concerning. Then you've got, we mentioned Jordan. And Jordan, by the way, Jordan's government are under threat by the local Bedouin people who are complaining. So there's a threat that Jordan may be overtaken as well. So a lot of instability. There we go.
And I'm just for the radio audience, I just threw up a map because it's always good to get our bearings. You're looking at Israel. Think about the nation of Israel, listening friends. You got Egypt to the south, and you got this humongous, which is a big country, obviously. You got this humongous Jordan just to the right of Israel. And then to the north of Israel, you have obviously Syria. So Jordan is a very big country. Now, President Trump is saying, look, we need to get Jordan and Egypt to take these Palestinians. So President Trump is clearly, as you say, wanting to make stability there. And he's bringing in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today, Jordan next week. I don't know. Is he going to bring in the leader of Egypt next? I mean, but he clearly has said that he's going to make them. He hasn't said, we hope. He's made it very clear. Jordan and Egypt are going to take these people.
Yeah, absolutely. He's made it clear. Now, I know the listeners can't see the map, but to our east is Jordan there. Now, just imagine, and then, of course, to the south is Egypt. Just imagine you've got 2 million Palestinians that get exiled into these countries. Now, it may sound good. It may solve the Palestinian problem. However, what are these nations, Jordan and Egypt, what are they going to do with them? Now, actually, last night, Brandon, interestingly, at our little local home congregation here, Messianic Believers, a number of people who attended that meeting know a lot of Christians in these countries, Jordan and Egypt. And we were praying that when the Palestinians move into those places, that these Christians who are to be the light and the salt, they will make an influence on these Palestinians, and their hatred would go away, and that they would be converted, and that they would have a changed life. So that's something we prayed for. But if that doesn't happen, you can just imagine the influence that these Palestinians are going to bring on the Jordanians and on the Egyptians, On top of that, you've got Syria in the north. And as I mentioned, there's threats and concerns that the leaders, these new leaders in Syria, there is a high chance that they may move into Jordan. They may take over Jordan as well. They've got the backing of Turkey. Turkey are fully Islamist. They want to see the Ottoman Empire reinstall. So it is very unstable. If Donald Trump's plan is implemented, that 1 million or 2 million Palestinians are sent to these countries, I mean, that's the first step. They're still going to be on our borders. That's still going to be very concerning for us and our borders. So that's something that I'm sure that our Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to discuss with Donald Trump, is that we still need security on our borders. That is why October the 7th happened, because we did not have secure borders. Now, another thing that is also very important here, it's not just Donald Trump that is for taking the Palestinians and especially Hamas out of the Gaza Strip. The United Arab Emirates and the Saudi Arabians, they are fully behind Donald Trump's idea. So that's a positive thing, that there are people in the Arab world who are behind it, who are for this. That will give Donald Trump a lot more stability and strength and authority behind him. And let's see if other Arab countries get on board as well. Very interesting the way these things are getting played out.
Here's a picture from the Prime Minister's own Twitter feed. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu preparing for his meeting later today with U.S. President Donald Trump. I'm going to assume that that is at the Israeli embassy there in D.C. I'm going to assume that's probably where that's at.
Hard for me to say. It could be, yes.
So tell me about the new, I think that's the, is that not the ambassador, the new Israeli ambassador sitting there? I don't know. It almost looks like Caroline Glick sitting there, but I don't think that is.
That is Caroline Glick.
Is it really? It really is?
It is. She is part of the team, strategic planning team.
Well, let's stop right there. I thought myself, that looks like Caroline Glick, but we wouldn't have that good fortune, would we? I mean, that is very encouraging to me. Now, for the audience who doesn't know, I've tried interviewing her, and we have emailed back and forth with her staff, and we have a difficult time because of the different in time schedule there. Not everybody is willing to be up at the crack of dawn or be up at 2 or 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning to be interviewed by Brennan House. Oh, Aaron is, and that's why we're so thankful. And that's, of course, why, again, we give him love offerings through our foundation, because he works all hours, literally day and night. So he's brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. But I have tried to interview her, and again, we've gone back and forth. They've tried to make it work, but we can never seem to get on this right time schedule. Tell our audience about Caroline Glick, what you know about her, and why is it a big deal that she's sitting there? She normally lives in Israel. So what does it say to you that she's sitting at this round table? And I'm pretty sure that's the new ambassador that was just sworn in January 24th.
So let me break those things down. Firstly, Caroline Glick, she is an American Jewess, immigrated many years ago to Israel, a very proud Zionist, and a correspondent, a very gifted speaker, very analytical. She has her own show. She gets some top people, really class act.
Yep.
Now, it was only about 5 days ago, if I remember correctly, that I read that she was included. Benjamin Netanyahu called her in to his cabinet to come and be part of the team of negotiators. And there she is, sitting there. Now, I do know who the the Israeli ambassador to America is, and he's not sitting there, Brannon.
Oh, well, he isn't?
No, he's not there. His name is Yechiel Leiter.
He just got sworn in January 24th,
Correct.
Right? Throw his picture up for me, Logan, so I can see it. I just actually, you know what's really weird, Aaron? I actually have his bio on my desk. It's in my office, his bio. I just printed his bio off. Can I let you in on a little secret, Aaron?
Yeah.
We've already reached out to the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., and we are trying to set up an interview with the new ambassador. So I had already printed out his bio and was going over it because I've got a notebook, a 3-ring binder full of now being filled up with things, of bios of people. I'm doing a lot of homework, guys. You're right. That is not him. I should know that. I don't know why I thought that.
Brandon, let me tell you, about 25 years ago, I heard him speak.
Really?
At the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem. That was 25 years ago. What a brilliant speaker. What a great patriot to the land of Israel, the people of Israel. When I heard that he'd been elected to be the ambassador, I could not believe it. By the way, he lost one of his sons in this
I was about
war.
to bring that up. One of his sons perished as an IDF soldier in this conflict. Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
And again, I'm going off his bio, but can someone run downstairs, please? All right, you know what? I know where it is online. I'll just read it during the break. There was something that he studied that I thought was very interesting. So let me look it up during the break and see what one of his degrees and background is. But fascinating. You know what? This is a very interesting program. I hope other people find it as interesting as I do, because I'm a little excited about the new Israeli ambassador to Washington. And I'm very excited that I brought this picture up here on the air. Just happened to do that. And I thought that's Caroline Glick, but no, we wouldn't have that good fortune. And sure enough, it is. So to me, this whole program is becoming very positive. Very positive. And I'll tell you why we care when we come back. Don't go away. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. And here is the new ambassador, the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. So he would be at the U.S. Embassy, or the Israeli Embassy in Washington, D.C. And his bio, he was born in 1959, so he's almost exactly 10 years older than I am. But here's the deal. He's an American-born Israeli. So Caroline Glick, born in America. The new ambassador, Michael Leiter, is that how you say his name?
Yechiel.
Huh?
Yechiel.
Okay, but his last name, is it Leiter?
Oh, yes, Leiter.
And he looks like he goes by, quote, Michael. I guess that's what he goes by.
Well, you know what? A lot of Jewish people have an English name and a Hebrew name.
We appreciate the English name, Aaron. We really do.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's a lot easier. But Ambassador Leiter, though, is how his last name would be Leitor, right? Or Leiter?
Leiter.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, he was born in America. Caroline's born in America. Now, what I found interesting is he's former chief of staff to Benjamin Netanyahu, but he was also political assistant to Ariel Sharon in the Israeli parliament, and he was ordained as a rabbi. Now, what I found really interesting in his bio, I found it. He holds an undergraduate degree in law, Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, a Master's of Arts in International Relations, and a PhD in Political Philosophy. This guy is very smart. His doctoral thesis focuses on the influence of the Hebrew Bible. Now, this is what I wanted to point out. His doctoral thesis focuses on the influence of the Hebrew Bible on John Locke's theory of consensual government. Now, that's interesting because John Locke, of course, greatly influenced our organic documents. And here he is talking about the Hebrew Bible, which would be the Old Testament, right?
Correct.
Right? So he's talking
Absolutely.
about the Old Testament's influence on John Locke's theory of consensual government. See, I found that very fascinating because of the influence of John Locke on our organic documents. And here he is, an American Jew, now in this key position. I mean, the whole thing to me just feels and sounds right. I mean, I've been pretty critical of Benjamin Netanyahu. No, everybody knows that. But I'll tell you, right now, he's making, in my opinion, some very good choices.
Yeah, and like I said, when I heard him speak 25, actually it was more like 30 years ago, he was speaking at a huge conference, about 7,000 people, and probably about at least 6,800 of them were evangelical Christians. He was one of the guest speakers to speak to them. So he is very open to the evangelical Christian community. And by the way, apart from his team that we saw sitting at the table there, a lot of evangelical Christians and leaders, including Mike Huckabee, came along, and they basically were surrounding Trump and Netanyahu, and they're right behind it. All the Christian leaders and the rabbis in Israel, the religious rabbis, are fully behind the Trump-Netanyahu plan to get Gaza free. But I want to point out something, Brandon. Go back to his profile, Yechiel Leiter's profile, because I saw something very interesting there. If you go back to the first paragraph where it talked, there's under the early life and education, where it says, there's the name, Rabbi Meir Kahane. It says Leiter was active in the far-right Jewish Defense League, led by, now do you know who Rabbi Meir Kahane is?
I don't, and you're going to tell me, but I was about, you're actually reading my mind, because my next question to you is going to be, why are they calling him a far-right Jew, being part of a far-right Jewish group? What does that mean in Israel, far-right? And who is this guy?
Well, Meir Kahane, he also an American Jewish rabbi. Mm-hmm. It says Rabbi Meir Kahane. He also immigrated to Israel many years ago. He became a member of the Israeli government, Brandon, but he is a extreme right-wing
ultra-nationalist politician is how he's described.
And in short, his ideology was, if the Arabs don't want to make peace with us, then we kill them or we get them out of our country. There's no compromise. It's either kill or be killed. That was it. Now, he ended up in America getting assassinated, Brandon.
He was assassinated in America?
In America. And I believe it was in the, I can't remember if
1990, November 5th, 1990 is when he died.
Does it say where he was assassinated?
Yeah,
I think it was outside at an embassy somewhere, or maybe, I can't remember. There was something diplomatic about his assassination.
Yep. In 1990, he gave a speech to an audience of mostly Orthodox Jews from Brooklyn, in which he warned American Jews to immigrate to Israel before it was, quote, too late, end quote. As a crowd gathered around Kahane, is that how you say his name?
Kahane, yes.
In the second floor lecture hall in Midtown Manhattan's New York Marriott East Side, Kahane was assassinated by El-Said Nassar. He was an Egyptian-born American citizen. He was initially charged and acquitted of the murder. Nassar was later convicted of the murder in a U.S. District Court for his involvement in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Prosecutors were able to try Nassar again for the murder because the federal indictment included the killing as part of the alleged terrorist conspiracy. He was sentenced to life in prison and later made a confession to federal agents. Kahane was buried in Jerusalem. He was utilized by supporters of both the U.S. and Israel, including Rabbi Moshe Tindler and others. A few hours after news of his assassination of Kahane reached Israel, two elderly Palestinians, Mohammed Ali and Mariam Hassan, were gunned down in an incident ascribed to Koch militants. So there you go.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, two Shabbats ago, 2 Saturdays ago, I was at a luncheon, and one of the two men who jumped on the guy that assassinated Mayor Kahane, he was sitting at the lunch table.
Wait a minute. The guy that jumped on the assassin that killed this gentleman was sitting at a lunch table with you last week.
Yeah, just sitting across from me. And he
Okay, wait a minute.
told us,
Now, Aaron, this is where we need you to pull out your cell phone and put the video on and see if you can do an impromptu interview.
it was Shabbat. They wouldn't let me use electricity.
Oh.
But I could actually get him and ask him to come on and tell the story.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You should set him up, bring him in, interview him. Logan will help you produce it, and then we'll replay it on the air.
Okay.
Now, why does it say that, and this is important, folks, because this is who greatly influenced the new Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Why does it say in the Wikipedia bio of Kahane that he was convicted of multiple acts of terrorism in the United States?
That Kahane was
the founder
convicted?
of the party, founder of the Israeli political party, Kach, K-A-C-H,
yes,
whose legacy continues to influence militant and far-right political groups active today in Israel, was convicted of multiple acts of terrorism in the United States and in Israel. What do you know about that?
Yeah. Well, that word terrorism, Brandon, for people that want to outlaw Mayor Kahane and his followers, they will use that word terrorism. I don't want to defend Mayor Kahane, but I know a lot of people in Mayor Kahane's camp, these settlers, they get accused of all kinds of quote-unquote terrorism, when in fact, they are just actually trying to defend themselves. Now, sometimes they go a bit too far, for sure, but a lot of the time, they are defending themselves.
Okay, here we go. Several JDL members, including Kahane, were subsequently convicted of acts related to domestic terrorism, including leading the attack on the Soviet United Nations mission in 1975. Later that same year, he was convicted of conspiracy to kidnap a Soviet diplomat, bomb the Iraqi embassy in Washington, and ship arms abroad from Israel. He subsequently served 1 year imprisonment, albeit in a hotel. Yeah, well, I don't know if I believe all that or not. Do you?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was framed because people wanted him out of the way.
All right, so all of that to say that this gentleman, this American-born Israeli Orthodox ordained rabbi, has, according to the other pages we're looking at here, influenced and was a part of the far-right Jewish Defense League that
Mayor Kahane was part of.
Exactly. The new ambassador to Israel is a part of.
Yeah, but he was Yechiel Leiter. It says when he was a young man.
Yep.
Fine. He hasn't been convicted. He hasn't been sent to prison. He is a right-wing Orthodox Jew. He's a settler. He lives in the settlements, meaning Judea and Samaria. He's totally for building up those lands, the heartland of Israel, which, by the way, let me remind the listeners that last week, Donald Trump made an executive order that any single political document that has the term West Bank, every term will be taken out and it will be replaced with the correct names, the biblical names, Judea and Samaria. And so Yechiel Leiter is totally right-wing for building up the heartland of Judea and Samaria. And so to have him on Netanyahu's team is a big statement, and I would imagine he and Mike Huckabee are going to be spending a lot of fun times and having some good conversations.
I bet. Now, the fact that President Trump is ordering the end in federal documents of the pejorative West Bank and call it instead Judea and Samaria, that tells me, obviously, that not only does President Trump understand that pejorative, but he's got some key people around him that really understand what's happening in Israel. And I don't want to divulge too much, but I did receive a text this weekend from a dear, dear, dear friend of mine. This audience would know who it is. And that one of their very close relatives is now on the legal counsel, is on the White House, in the White House counsel's office. And the individual is Jewish. So I'm thinking you've got some historians, some Jewish historians. These are obviously also American-born Jews who bounce between America and Israel, who are also lawyers, who know exactly the things that we're talking about right now, because I know their bio. I know what they used to do and who they used to work with. Again, as soon as I got that text this weekend from my friend telling me, hey, my family member is now inside the White House counsel's office, I'm like, well, this would help us explain, again, I think, why we're seeing some good policies, because you have people now in that White House council that are Jewish, and some of them are Messianic Jewish, that 100% understand everything you and I sit here and talk about.
Yeah, this is a new era, new generation, new administration, and let's see what comes out of these talks. I mean, we haven't got any meat yet. We've got some basic headlines, but nothing meaty yet. Of course, one of the key things also is other hostages. Trump is also adamant to get all the hostages back.
All right, let's pick it up when we come back, and we will open the phone lines up today. A very evolving conversation, very interesting with Aaron Lavarco, folks, our reporter on the ground in Israel, brought to you by you. We send him, as I said, love offerings regularly because he does great yeoman's work for us and helps us understand the times, and providentially was brought to us by our friend Tom Gonzer in Minnesota, who went on a tour in Israel and had Aaron as his guide. And then one of my classmates or high school friends I went to Christian school with had him, her name's Sheila, had him as a tour guide as well. Small world, folks. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website worldviewradio.com. Look at this headline from the Jerusalem Post. Netanyahu may concede on, there's a derogatory word, West Bank. Netanyahu, let me correctly clean it up. Netanyahu may concede on Judea and Samaria annexation, favoring Saudi Arabia peace deal. This is an exclusive Jerusalem Post. Israeli coalition officials told the J Post they fear Netanyahu will concede on annexation efforts to push for normalization deal with Saudi Arabia. What do you make of that, Aaron?
Well, in many ways, Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, is very similar to the Gaza Strip. Hamas are operating in major areas like Jenin, Samaria, and we've been talking about that for the last couple of months especially, and our forces are operating in a major hit right now as we talk, called the Iron Wall. So I personally think it's a matter of priorities. I don't think Netanyahu is going to totally do away with it for the future. I think he's going to have to deal with Judea and Samaria, but maybe it's an issue of prioritizing things. And some people are going to be against that, but I think I think probably Donald Trump has got something to do with the influence with Netanyahu making that step. But the stakes are high here for any of these decisions, Brandon. The stakes are very high, whether he prioritizes annexing the West Bank first, or making peace with Saudi Arabia first. I think perhaps he wants to get the Saudis and the United Arab Emirates on board to give some kind of credibility in the Arab world, maybe to try and get other Arab nations in on this as well. Obviously, Netanyahu, he's quite a strategist, and he's got a good team around him. Another one of those people sitting at the table with him is a man called Ron Dermer. Ron Dermer is the senior strategist, great man on his team. And, he's got these good strategic players with him. So they will be discussing that. I just got an update that Netanyahu's getting ready. I think it's in about an hour and a half that he will be meeting with Donald Trump.
And we will be carrying it here, if not on our main player, our breaking news feed below our main player. We will be carrying that at worldviewtube.com. I will tell you, I did just find out where it is that meeting took place. That's at the Blair House. So that, for folks who don't know, is a beautiful home across the street from the White House. That's where President Trump himself spent the night before being sworn in as president the next day, just 2 weeks ago, yesterday. So any of you that go to Washington, D.C. can generally actually stand right at the steps of the door of the Blair House. Melissa and I did during the inauguration of George W., we walked over there and stood right in front of the door. Got our picture taken at the Blair House, which is a very historic home. There was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Logan, I think that was the attempted assassination of Truman in front of the Blair House, where the Secret Service, an agent was killed, and they also killed some guys. I think they were Cubans, again, all off the top of my memory here, in front of the Blair House. Very historic home. It's really the guest house of the president. So Benjamin Netanyahu is staying at the Blair House. So just for correct the record, he's not at the Israeli embassy, as I would have maybe thought he would be. He's actually at the Blair House. And there's the, for listening friends by radio, another picture of the meeting, which includes, I think, America's envoy to the Middle East. What's his name?
Correct. Mike
Witkoff or something?
That's the man. Now, in that picture, Brandon, there is the ambassador. The far right with the yarmulke on his head,
yep,
that is Yechiel Leiter. That's the Israeli ambassador to America. And then to his left is Ron Dermer, who I mentioned is the senior advisor. And then to the left of the picture with the blue shirt and the bald head, the second from the left, that is Tzachi Negbi. Now, he is the Minister of Internal Security of Israel. And so he's part of the team as well. So interesting group.
Who's the gentleman sitting back behind him?
I don't quite recognize him.
Okay. Do you know who's sitting next to Benjamin Netanyahu to our left?
Now, I've seen him a number of times.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think he's an American.
No, he is. He definitely is. But his name is escaping me. But he is a big part of the negotiating team, obviously. Yeah, I forgot his name.
All right, so let's talk in our moments for open phone lines. Why is it we spend so much time on this, is maybe the question the audience is asking. I'll tell you why. Because as evangelical Christians, and myself as a Christian Zionist, Aaron, I think, would describe himself as a Christian Zionist as well. He's shaking his head, yes. We understand that if you want to understand where we are on God's prophetic timetable, you really got to keep your eye on Israel. You know, Henry Morris, I don't know if you know who Henry Morris is, but Henry Morris writes that Jerusalem is literally at the center of the earth. I have a quote in one of my presentations by Henry Morris talking about Israel is literally at the center of the earth. And if you want to understand what's at the center of God's attention, it's going to be Israel. Can you explain why, for the Christians listening, why it's such a center point for the earth and for God and for his end time events?
Well, my answer is, past, present, and future. And the simple answer to that, Brandon, is where is the Messiah coming? To Washington? To
Nope.
Tokyo? No.
Nope.
He's coming to that little piece of land called Israel. Zechariah 14 says his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, overlooking Jerusalem. So we know where it's going to happen. Romans 1 says that all creation is groaning until this redemption happens. So, my look at it, Brandon, is also prophecy. We don't just wake up one day and read the papers. Oh, prophecy was fulfilled today. Prophecy being fulfilled, it takes time. And as you and I are talking, as the people are listening, we are part of prophecy being fulfilled. We are seeing the Jewish people return back to their ancient homeland. We're seeing it by the thousands. Last year, 50,000 Jewish people returned home. And with all the anti-Semitism around the world, and just read what's going on in places like Australia, Jews are packing their bags and they're coming home. This is biblical prophecy being fulfilled. God said, I will scatter my people among the nations and I will bring them back. He's doing that, but he didn't stop there. He said, when they come back, they will rebuild the desolate places. And I can take you on a bus all around Israel. I can show you some of these desolate places that we are rebuilding, that we have rebuilt. So, and then, of course, it says all the nations will come against Jerusalem. And we see that. That's why Jerusalem is in the news. Jerusalem is the center. It's the apple of God's eye, but it's the place that the Lord is coming back.
I found the article by Henry Morris, Dr. Henry Morris. Many of people remember in this audience, Henry Morris, I think, wrote the Genesis flood with my friend, the late Dr. John Whitcomb. I think they wrote that book together, Genesis Flood. Henry Morris, one of the first creation ministries ever created. And of course, Henry Morris's son has spoken for us at our Worldview weekend, which, by the way, just happens to be in our vault. One of the many keynote presentations in our vault at worldviewtube.com/vault that are more relevant now than when these guys produced and spoke for us then, worldviewtube.com/vault. But here's Henry Morris' article back in 2010. It says, it is doubtful that enough was known about geography in Ezekiel's day for him to be able to know that Jerusalem was in the midst of the nations and countries of the world. In fact, he also said that that the people of Israel in the last days dwell in the midst of the land, Ezekiel 38:12. The phrase could better be rendered the center of the earth. That's Ezekiel 38:12. In any case, Ezekiel's right. It would have been essentially impossible to determine the center of the Earth's land masses before the advent of modern computers, but this has now been done. And computer studies sponsored by the International Creation Research over 30 years ago determined that the sum of the distances from the point in the Bible's lands to all the increments of lands areas on Earth would be smaller than from any other point on the Earth's surface. Not only is this region, and probably Jerusalem itself, if we had precise information on the exact shape of the continents and their continental shifts, the geographic center of the earth, but it's also the spiritual center. It's there where Christ died and rose again. It's also there where he will come again and reign over the earth. Zechariah 14, verses 4 and verse 9. For that matter, the new Jerusalem will, in the ages to come, be the center of the entire universe. We do not know where the center of the universe is now, for one cannot even define the center of infinite space. The best we can do is assume that the universe is centered around the throne of the Creator from where it was stretched out in the beginning, Psalm 104, verse 2. And of course, where the new Jerusalem comes down to the new earth, the throne of God and the Lamb shall be in it, Revelation 21, verses 2, Revelation 22, verse 3. And all who know him now will live there too. Fascinating, is it not?
Brilliant article. Very well written.
What do you make about Ezekiel 38:12? The phrase could be better rendered the center of the earth, Jerusalem, the center of the earth.
Well, in the ancient days, Brennan, Jerusalem was right in the middle of the three main continents, Africa, Europe, and Asia. It was right in the middle of the two major ancient trade routes, the Via Maris, which was the trade route along the sea, and on the east, the King's Highway. And if you controlled the trade routes, it meant money, and money meant power, and power meant weapons, and weapons meant fortification and defeating your enemies. So, the strategic location of Jerusalem, right in the middle of those three continents, and kings and peoples and nations, armies traveled through all of the bypass roads. People listening, you've got to come on a tour and you've got to see these places. And it makes a lot more sense when you actually see it in person.
According to this research, the geographical center of the Earth is actually located near, what is that? The modern day capital of nation of
Ankara.
Turkey today, right? Ankara?
Yeah, Ankara, yes.
The city is slightly north of the center of that nation and southeast of the port city of Istanbul, which would previously be called Constantinople. It goes on from there. So if you guys want to research this, you'll find an awful lot of interesting information on this topic. But for us, it's so important because it helps us know where we are at on the calendar, God's prophetic calendar, because there has to be a peace treaty sometime signed. And you guys in Israel would be dwelling in unwalled cities. And then that's all of a sudden, and I don't know if that's going to last a day, 2 days, a month, whatever. And then after that, you got Ezekiel 38, Gog Magog occurring, correct?
Absolutely. You know, that quote with Jerusalem living in unwalled cities from Zechariah. There are all kinds of plans for Jerusalem on the table.
1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. I'll tell you something, folks. Biden was trying to get Israel to divide their land. President Trump's like, hey, we need to get these Palestinians to Jordan and Egypt. Doesn't sound like to me he's trying to get them to divide the land. I'll ask Aaron about that. I think one of the greatest ways to bring judgment on a nation is have that nation pressuring Israel to divide her land. Have we just bought ourselves a little time here, folks? Phone line's now open. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. One 1-800-347-9829. Let's go right away to David, line 1. David, South Florida. David, thank you for calling in, David.
Hi, Brandon. How are you today? Good to talk to you.
Thank you. Glad you called in.
Hey, question for you. Kind of building off of a lot of the studies that I've watched with Pastor Andy Woods, and him saying that there are, in the Bible, of course, there are two programs going on, one for Israel, one for the church. And I know this is sort of maybe a dumb rhetorical question, but maybe you could expand upon it. Do you think that's what the Apostle Paul meant when he said that to be a workman and to rightly divide the word of truth? Do you think that's dividing between what scriptures pertain to Israel and what scriptures pertain to the church? Do you think he was specific in that regard?
Well, I don't know if he's being specific, but it would certainly include it. It absolutely would include it. Because if you, David, you're bringing up such an important topic, because if you misconstrue the church with the nation of Israel, your theology, your eschatology, everything gets completely skewed, all right?
I agree.
And as a dispensationalist, and I understand how God works in various ways in different time periods, his character nature doesn't change, but the way he works with people and among people changes. From the Old Testament prophets to the New Testament apostles, we got like 400 years of silence, right? And we got things going on in the Old Testament with Moses and all kinds of things happening. And then we come into the New Testament. We have the apostles doing amazing things, of course, to give credibility to the gospel message and the foundational doctrine of the church they're laying down. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're off the scene. We don't need any more of those prophets and apostles. We have the Holy Spirit. We have the doctrine of the church now through the Holy Scriptures. And so the Lord is now using the instrument of the church. And then the church is removed. We're now in a new dispensation. The church is removed. And voila, you got two prophets showing up in Israel doing miracles, signs, and wonders, and an angel flying across the sky preaching the everlasting gospel. So I think only when you understand the distinctions between Israel and the church and the dispensations of how God is working and moving, does now your theology and eschatology line up. Otherwise, why are we not looking today for prophets and apostles and people to do these signs and wonders? Because we're in the church age. We don't need them. We have the doctrine of the church. We have the Holy Spirit. But once the church is removed, then all of a sudden we're in a new dispensation and you got prophets and signs and wonders appearing. So I think you're bringing up a very good point. But to rightly divide the word of truth, you would have to do this, or you're very skewed. Great call, great question. Chris, line 2 in Wisconsin. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for taking my call. Great show, and hello to Aaron. Yeah, I just wanted to say really quick, I heard a Christian gentleman, I don't remember who it was, say that he believes that maybe possibly God may use Donald Trump to give Israel the green light to rebuild the third temple. And I just wonder if you guys think that's a possibility, especially Aaron, and that was my comment.
All right, Aaron, quick answer, because I got to go to Dave and Lily.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, no question about it. And I think maybe Saudi Arabia might play a part in it as well. It's all speculation, of course, but anything's possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens.
Now, that doesn't make, that would not, if Donald Trump says, hey, go ahead and build your third temple, that doesn't make Donald Trump the Antichrist, correct?
No.
Because the Antichrist is the one that's going to confirm treaties already on the table. In other words, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, all of these guys could have been doing various pieces that come together into one deal that are finally confirmed by Antichrist. So in other words, what we're saying is God could be using Donald Trump surrounded by a lot of very conservative Jews and some Messianic Jews to just be setting the stage prophetically for what is to come into the future.
Yeah, which will be the abomination that causes desolation. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Dave in Wisconsin, line 3. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi.
I had a comment on the two witnesses.
Okay.
Now, yeah, I believe it should be Enoch and Elijah because they're the only two that never experienced death.
Okay.
And it says that Lazarus, I know Lazarus died, but that was only to show the glory of God.
So who do you think the two witnesses will be? You think the two witnesses will be who?
Enoch and Elijah.
Okay. Well, you're in good company. I think that's exactly who Dr. Jimmy D. Young believed the two witnesses would be. So you're in good company, and theologians agree and disagree, and we don't know. I think it's going to be Elijah and Moses. That's my personal belief. What say you, Aaron?
Yeah, I lean toward it being Moses and Elijah. Listen, I'm going to put my foot in. If the Lord will accept me, I'll be one of them. But I don't know if the pay will be good enough, but we'll see.
All right, there you go. Can we get exclusive interviews if you are?
Absolutely. Yes,
okay.
I'll have my backdrop behind me.
I can approach you without you breathing fire on me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be merciful on you.
Okay, and at that point, I would have had to change my eschatology because I'm now finding myself in the tribulation talking to the prophet, right. Aaron. All right, Lily in Arizona. Lily, go right ahead. Thank you, Lily.
Hi, appreciate your humor there on the two witnesses. Let's all be witnesses, right? But,
right.
Coming from a Christian news background, I have to tell your listeners how invaluable it is that you give us on-the-ground information in Israel, background historical information, and then layer it with prophetic. It's like what the world needs to hear but doesn't hear, because typically when something major is going on in Israel, the regular news is all in uproar about something else to keep the American public or the public at large from knowing what is happening in Israel. So I commend you both, and carry on, Christian soldiers, with the Word of God. But I wanted to just cap off that prophecy from Zechariah about the people will live in unwalled cities. And I love the second part of that. Fire is my favorite subject, but the Lord will be the glory in the midst of her. So let's all look forward to that day.
Amen.
And God bless you. Thank you for
Amen. Bless you. Thank you so much. God bless you too.
Absolutely. Great call, Lily. Lily checking in from Arizona. Samuel, line 1. Hi, Samuel. Go right ahead, Samuel.
Yes, hello. Thanks for taking the call. I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
ask Aaron, is the Prime Minister Netanyahu amenable to a two-state solution? I think of that because of Joel 3:2.
Joel 3:2 talks about dividing the land.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think he's for a two-state solution, to be honest. No, I don't think so. He has to find a solution for the Palestinian people. They're our neighbors. As the leader, he has to deal with them. He can't just avoid them. And that's the tricky job that he has. So, but I don't believe he's for a two-state solution.
And look at this in closing. Trump expected to reimpose maximum pressure on Iran, officials say. As part of the maximum pressure effort, the Trump administration will implement a campaign aimed at driving Iran's oil exports to zero. We're going to be covering Benjamin Netanyahu and everything this afternoon. Stay tuned for Crosstalk. Take care.
This has been.
And that's our broadcast on those stations. We're back with Aaron. Aaron, what do you make of this? You know that Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump are going to be talking about Iran, are they not?
Absolutely. And I've actually read a couple of reports today, Brennan, that they're going to go for the underground sites. There's been a new one. Have you seen? There's been a new video out this week.
Really?
Iran showing their another underground, almost like an underground city with missiles and drones. It's the second one that they have come out with, quite sophisticated. But again, the first one was a half a mile under the ground.
Really? All right, I'm going to see if I can find it. So this is Iran's got a new underground tunnel.
Yeah, this is the second one. Actually, it's not exactly a tunnel. It is a tunnel, but it's almost like a little, almost a village.
A military base, really?
It's a military base. Yes, exactly.
All right, now here's one. This is from back on January 18th. This is sped up. Look how long that is.
Right.
And it's loaded up with boats and more boats. Wow, they got a lot of boats in there.
They got a lot.
No,
they got a lot.
That tells you that they're planning an attack, obviously, on your coast, perhaps, right?
For sure, if they're boats, absolutely. And they're quite sophisticated. They lack airplanes, although recently they've purchased from Russia a number of sophisticated airplanes. But they have drones. They have their own Iranian-built drones that are the size of a normal airplane. Look at those missiles being fired. There you go.
Missiles being fired off of these. These are not very big boats, but boy, these missiles. Wow.
And Iran are deliberately showing this. This is part of their propaganda and psychological warfare, trying to put some fear in. But the CIA, the Mossad, the intelligence, they will have some information, and but again, how anyone can get a half a mile under the ground, I don't know. Maybe they need some kind of cyber activity, but anything's possible because look what happened with the walkie-talkies and the pages, Brandon.
Yep.
Anything's possible.
And you think this is how far down underground?
Well, they said that one that they talk about, it's exactly half a mile under the ground. They said 800 meters, I think, which is half a mile. The 1,600 meters is a kilometer. No, I did the math.
Okay, here we go. Here it is. Iran didn't release the exact location. However, they said it's off the coast of Iran. They said on top of that, they said it's about 500 meters below the surface.
Okay, well, 500 meters, well, that's half a kilometer. So half a kilometer is probably 0.35 of a mile. Yeah, which is still a very long distance under the ground.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that something? Mm-hmm.
But I feel that, again, we've been following their activities for 20 years at least. So no question, our intelligence, they've got some plan strategy going, and if we can work with the Trump administration, then we might be in for a few surprises in the coming days, weeks, or months.
Now, is this what you were referring to? Did they announce some kind of underwater base? Did you announce? Do you know about this?
Yeah, that's also part of it. There you go. Exactly, an underwater base. Look at that.
Now, is that a real base, or is that just a picture of what they want to do?
Well, it looks like it's under the water to me.
Yeah, but is that a picture, or you think it's the real base?
It kind of looks real to me. I don't know if it looks like a picture.
Wow.
But yeah, there's the Iranian flag. Yeah, no, that is not the one I saw the other day, Brandon. I had seen that picture before, but there was another one.
Well, again, this is very important work we're doing here with Aaron. And again, he's brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. His website is lighttothenationsministry.com. Aaron, look forward to a report. Keep your cell phone on. We might need to grab you for TV tonight with this, what comes out. We'll be covering it live here. At what time, Logan? 2:45? 2:45 Central, is at 2:45 Central when he gets there, and they have a meeting, and then a press conference at what time? 4 o'clock Central? All right, so we may need to grab you back, Aaron. We'll see. I don't want to wake you up too early. Aaron Lavarco checking in, folks. Again, we appreciate all your support so we can keep pushing out this kind of programming. Very expensive, over 40 grand a month, our hard cost just to keep the network running. Worldviewfoundation.com is how you can help. Take care.
Colonel Rob Manus has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan, and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Manus is a true American hero.